Alrighty, so hello everybody. Welcome to Comp Finance 621. This is a substitute for the lecture that I missed yesterday. This is 621. My name is Casper Larsen. I'm going to be teaching it. Compared to previous years' classes, this one here is going to be a bit different. We're going to have, there'll be two texts. There'll be two texts in this course. There will be Hall's book. The version that I'm using is this one here. This is the 10th edition, Options, Futures, and Other Derivatives. John Hall has several books. The ones you're going to be looking for is Options, Futures, and Other Derivatives. Let me write that down. This is Hall's Options, Futures, and Other Derivatives. And the other book we're going to be using is what we have previous years used exclusively. This is Steve Shreve's Stochastic Calculus for Finance, and this is number 1. So there are two of them. I have the other one here. This is Stochastic Calculus for Finance number 2. As you can tell, one is a lot thinner than the other. The one that we're going to be using is the thinner one. This is the one that's called the binomial asset pricing model. So the two, so let me write that too. So this is Shreve, Stochastic Calc for Finance number 1. So this is the binomial model. So you need to get your hands on these two textbooks. We're going to be using them starting already in the first lecture here. So the edition that I'm using from Hall is the 10th edition, and there'll be exercises in here that'll go on your homework. There'll be exercises in this one that'll go on your homework. So far, there's only one edition of Steve, so that's easy. But there are lots of editions for Hall, so this is the 10th edition. Okay, so those are our two texts. There will be a on Canvas. On Canvas, there are notes. Notes posted. There will be homeworks posted. You typically do Friday night. There will be there's a syllabus, so you got to read the syllabus. Syllabus outlines how the course is going to get, how we'll run the course. Also on the syllabus, there's a schedule, and this gets updated. As we go along. There also there'll be links. There'll be links to videos. Videos. This is not how I spell video. Videos. So I'm using YouTube. And there'll also be so these videos. These will be the lectures. But not office hours. And so my office hours are, let's see, what did I put? My hours are Friday mornings from 9 to 10. Sherry has her hours. He has them on Wednesdays, 9 to 10. He has them on Thursdays in the evening. We have lots of students that are in different time zones, so there are some evening hours here for those students. So these office hours, you're not going to get recorded, you're not going to be put online. If you're not used to office hours, so office hours, this is where you can get help with the material. You can ask questions during your lectures, of course. You can ask questions in the break during the lectures, and you can go to office hours. So you can go to my office hours. So you can go to Sherry, her office hours, and get help with the material, get help with the homework. You're free to ask whatever questions that you want to ask. Right, so I'll put the notes here that I'm writing. They will go up on Canvas. Each lecture is split into two. Each lecture is split into two. It's split into two, so you're going to need going to look at the different Zoom links. There are different links. So you're going to use one Zoom link, then there'll be a break. And then we'll go back on a different Zoom link. And the way that I'm going to try to do it is we will split the lecture, and then the first part is from Hall or Shreve, and then the second part is the other way. The second part is opposite. Right, so today, what we'll do is we will do chapter 1+2 from Hall. And then that'll be the first part. And then we'll do section or chapter 1.1. Do chapter 1.1 from Shreve. This will be the second part. There'll also be two videos. So this will be video 1. This will be video number 1. This one here will be video number 2. So these are just practicalities about how I teach using Zoom. And you can see here I'm writing on a document camera. I'll be doing that throughout the semester. Okay, so what else is there to know? So we have something about grading. Grading. So there'll be about 10 sets of homework. There'll be about 10 sets of homework. You will end up counting. This is going to be about 3% each. And then there'll be 2 tests, and you'll count for the remaining. So this will be about 70%. And because we're doing all this on we'll do all this on Zoom, these tests here are going to be oral on Zoom. So you'll need, we'll talk about this as we get closer to the first test. There's number one is halfway. and then there's number 2 at the end. So you'll need to either have a phone that you can use to write with, so I can see what you're writing. If you don't have such a thing, if you have an iPad, you can use that. If you don't have that, then there is a feature inside Zoom that's called Whiteboard. Then you can use Whiteboard. It's quite important that it's just a good idea here, based on what we did last year. It's a good idea. It's a good idea to test your method of writing using Zoom before your first test. There were lots of students who were not bothered by this with the technology that worked out pretty well. There were some students that had some issues, but we were able to get it to work. So these tests here, they're 20 minutes each. So this is 20 minutes, and this is 20 minutes. And so the way that it's going to go is, I'll give you, so for your tests, for both tests, I'll pick an old homework problem. And ask you to solve it. So you should expect questions, and don't memorize here. Sometimes students have a tendency to see the question and maybe to see the solution, and then you'll just tell me exactly what the solution says. This is not what I'm looking for. You need to understand the words that are in the solution for what it has to do with the actual problem. So please don't just memorize this. It's not a good idea. But as I said, we'll talk more about this when we get closer. The grades that are assigned, typically you get your A's when you sit between 100 and 90, and you get a B when you sit between 90 and 80. You get a C when you sit between sit between 80 and 60, and then F is less than 60. Yeah. So maybe we should say a little bit about why. So what is new here? What is new? What is new this year? Well, one thing we would like to have, one goal that we have had, us who are involved in the program, but we've been trying to make it, the material more tangible. What does tangible mean? But it somehow make it more like less abstract. Less abstract, more numerics. And so maybe I should say more numerical. So you will see me start doing that already today. I'll build, there'll be more code, and the code that I use is I use MATLAB and I use Mathematica. So if you have never played with MATLAB or Mathematica before, I will urge you to get them installed and start writing some bits and pieces. Today I'm going to be using MATLAB for a few things that I had prepared, but Mathematica these are very, the reason that I prefer these ones is that they have a lot of things already built in, so I don't have to write all the code myself. And it's very easy to get it to work. Debugging is not so, it's not like a tremendous burden. How much are they used in practice? I think the main language in practice these days is, well, there's still probably a lot of Excel models out there, right? So VBA behind. There's probably still a lot of C++ code out there, but I know language like Python, which was big in the 90s, this seems to have a pretty big foothold too in the finance industry. I'm using MATLAB and Mathematica because they work really well with Zoom. I can get it to work there fairly quickly. So if you don't have these two pieces of software, go on Rutgers account and download them, get them installed. And if you've never written any code using these pieces of software, start downloading some tutorials and start playing with it, because you're going to see quite a bit of it. That's the plan, to see quite a bit of that in this course. Okay. So let's see. In this lecture here today, we're gonna break it into two parts, right? So we'll do chapter 1 and chapter 2 from Hall, and that's my goal today. So let's try to get get it going, right? So let's just what are the basic things that that won't care about? Well, you could look at, so now we're in Hall. So here's chapter 1 and 2. You could look at a company and look at its assets. So assets, you will decompose them into two types, right? So there's the assets that a company has, roughly speaking, can be broken into equity, right? So this is stocks. This is very rough, but this is to get the idea across. So you have equity, right? And then you have debt. Right, so this here would be bonds. Right, so equity, if you're a stockholder, that means you own. This here is ownership. And debt, well, this is when you borrowed it. This is loan. These are people that have loaned you money. Your loan providers. So the big difference is that loan providers, they are served before equity, right? So you pay back your debt before you can pay out dividends. So loan providers, they are served first. You're served before equity holders. Okay, but the equity holders are the ones who make the decisions. This is a very rough way of thinking about a company's asset as equity and debt. And it's the picture here is not so, in practice, the picture is not nearly this simple. Right? There are lots of different kinds of stock, and there are lots of different kinds of bonds, and sometimes you melt a bit together. Sometimes you can convert one into the other, and so on. But in a very serialized world, this is how we would break assets into equity and into stock. And it's important for us because a large class of assets belong to, a large class of assets would be bonds and equally well stocks. So let me start out with bonds and have a look at that. So bonds, what is a bond? Well, It's what's called a fixed income instrument. Fixed income instrument. It's payment. So payments are broken. There are many potential payments, and payments are split into two kinds, right? So you have coupons, just like interest rate, interest, right? And then you also have notional. I said this arguably the simplest bond that is available is the zero coupon bond. So the zero coupon bond this is arguably the simplest bond that's out there. It's also denoted by these three letters, ZZ and B. And so you have a zero coupon bond, then there's just one payment. There's one payment at time capital T. So we have a picture that looks like this. Over here at the end is capital T. And today is where we're sitting here. This is at time 0. Over here at the end, there is a $1 payment. Now, how much are you willing to pay for that $1 over here? This is what we'll be interested in. At the end, you get $1. How much are you willing to pay for it here in the beginning? How much is that $1 over here? How big should I make the leg here? This is the initial price. This is the time 0 price. Well, if you're getting $1 at the end, then maybe you're willing to pay, I don't know, 90 cents, 95 cents to get $1 at some point later on. We're not interested in pricing these things right now. What we're interested in is talking about what they look like. So a zero coupon bond. We'll talk a lot about zero coupon bonds. This is a main building block in fixed income. And fixed income is arguably the biggest class of. If you look at notionals, this is the biggest. This is the biggest class of assets we have, and there are lots and lots of textbooks, and there are lots of desks, there are lots of jobs involved that involve fixed income. So this is an immensely important area of quantitative finance. And zero coupon bonds, this is the main building block. So a zero coupon bond, in other words, is nothing else than a contract that pays out $1 at some later time point. So that's one example. I had in mind a few more. We could also look at a portfolio. A portfolio of the zero coupon bonds. So portfolio, this is just a collection. A collection of zero coupon bonds. So what we could have is, instead of this picture up here, we could have something that is more general. Right, so we could have a picture that would look something like this. So again, I'm sitting here at time 0. We could have payments coming in like that. So this here could be, say, payment of A1. This comes in at time 1. Then there's a payment at time 2. Could be you got a big one. And then there could be a payment of, say, A3 that you get out at time 3. So at time 1, you get A1. At time 2, you get A2. At time 3, you get A3. So how would I how would I go from the zero coupon bonds to this portfolio of zero coupon bonds? Well, what I would need to do is I would just recognize the lower picture here as given in terms of these simpler pictures I have up here. This portfolio here, this is the payoff, this is a portfolio. This is a portfolio is typically written as PF. This is a portfolio of, let's see, I need A1. Remember, this pays out 1, so I need A1 zero coupon bonds that that matures. This capital T here, this is called maturity. This T here, this is called maturity. That's when everything ends. So I have A1 zero coupon bonds that mature at time 1. Then I have A2 zero coupon bonds that mature at time 2, and I have A3 zero coupon bonds that mature at the end. Right, and as before, what I'm interested in is, given these 3 payments are coming in at time 1, time 2, and time 3, I'm interested in knowing what kind of a value should I put out here. What is going to be my time 0 price? Like, how much am I willing to pay today to get these 3 payments in the future? So this is a portfolio of zero coupon bonds. And there's one particular example that is very important, at least here in the US. A particular, and I should say here, this is really very important such portfolio is called an annuity. An annuity, so that's the key word, annuity. This here is what, this is basically, I shouldn't say all, but this is what most homeowners, so like that's houses and condos, right? So house and condo in the US use when they buy. So I want to spend some time talking about what an annuity is, because if you are able to buy a home in the US, say, but this is also true in many other countries, if you are to buy, maybe some of you are living in an apartment, if you were to buy your own, so you want to buy your own condo, or you want to buy your own house, you're going to face an annuity in the US. Because it has such immense importance. Let's spend a little bit of time talking about what an annuity is. Well, an annuity is a portfolio like the one we have up here. We have these payments that come in the future. And for an annuity, what characterizes an annuity is that you have these payments that come in, and they're all the same. So this is A, this is A, this is A, and then you get a bunch of them until you come out to the very end. This is A. So here you're sitting at time 0, time 1, time 2, time 3, and this is out towards the end. This is your annuity. And this annuity, so A is split. A is the payment. A is the payment, and it's split and it's split into two payments. It's split into coupon, so it's split into interest. Split into interest, and this is important because of taxes. In the US, the interest that you pay on your mortgage, right? So that's, I should say that this here is this is a mortgage. The payment that you pay on the interest rate part of A that you pay, this can be used to reduce your taxes, at least to some extent. And the other one is you pay down your notional. So this is a notional. So this is a notional reduction. You pay the loan off as you move along. So let's have a closer look at an example. Let's have a closer look at an example. So say that you want, to borrow $1 million US. Say you want to borrow $1 million US. Today, in today's environment, this is about somewhere around 2%. The fixed rate, the fixed US rate is give and take 2% over 30 years. In the US, you can also get other maturities in 30 years. You can get 10 and 15 years. They're also available. But let's do the standard one is 30 years. Right, so the fixed US rate is 2%. You pay it over a 30-year period. You want to borrow $1 million. And so how many payments are there? So the total number of payments, it's not rocket science, it's 30 times 12, it's 360 payments, right? So you're going to have 360 of these. You're going to pay, so you will pay 360 times the value A. Every month you'll be paying A. This is every month. So how much are you willing to pay? What you want to get $1 million out here. So you want this thing here to be $1 million. That was the goal, right? This was $1 million. What should A be? Right, so let me show you how to do that. And again, you can go online and find a mortgage calculator if you so desire. But let me show you how to do this very quickly using MATLAB. Hang on there for just a second. I need to share. I need to figure out what to share. Okay, so let me see if I can share. Here is the one. Here's MATLAB. Okay. The command in MATLAB that I'm looking for is what's called this one here. This PAYPER, paper. So this is pay and then per period. Okay, so if we don't know what paper is, we need to go and figure this out. And so let me go figure this out. So to do that, I need to stop sharing, and then I'm going to share my I'm going to share my internet screen instead, so you can get a feeling for how to do that. So paper, and then MATLAB. So MathWorks, this is the company that produces MATLAB. So we go there, and it says periodic payment of loan or annuity, which is exactly what we want. Okay, so what does it give you? You paper, this is a function, it takes a bunch of input parameters. It takes the rate, the number of periods, and then the present value, right? And the present value was $1 million. So the syntax is as follows. So you do paper, and then it needs the rate. In our case, it's 2%. 2% is the annual rate. So we need to divide by 12. And how many periods? Well, we had it over 30 years. So 30 times 12, just 360. And then the present value, well, that was $1 million. So we enter those in there and see what we get. So let me try to do that. So this is the setting we have here. So paper, and then the 2%, you divide 2% by 12 to get the monthly rate. That's the convention. You just divide by the number, and then it's 360, and then it's 1 million here, and you hit enter, and it comes out with a number. All right, so that's my A. So you need to move, it says you should move the punctuation sign 3 slots to the right, right? So it's 3,696. Okay, so that was our number. So in this case, so this is using, let me switch back to, this is 2%, right? This one here was the annual. This was annual. So it was 2 divided by 12. 2 divided by 12 was the monthly. So using paper, this is inside MATLAB. And we get A was 3,000, I forget what was it? 3,696. Right, and so how much, as we said, we split A into interest and notional reduction. So how much is the split here? Your first payment is 3,696. This A here is the same every single month for the next 360 months. Well, to figure this out, we need to compute what is your interest rate payment. Well, you pay an interest of 2 divided by 12 on $1 million. So let's switch back and let's see how that looks like in mathematics here. Right, so the interest rate was 0.02 divided by 12. That's that number. We had $1 million. So $1 million, that's 6 zeros, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 0.0017. That's 1,700. So the interest rate payment will be 1,700, and the A we had was this number up there. It was 3,696 minus 1,700. This is the notional reduction. So that's 1996. Let me just write them on a piece of paper. So we had 1,700 here. And we had 9. Forget now, my memory is not what it should be. Let me look this up again. It was 1996. So the first payment is split into 1,700 in interest rate payments and 1996 in notional reduction, right? So the notional in your next period is going to be 1 million minus, so the new notional here is going to be going to be 1 million minus this number, and that will be what we'll pay interest on the next time, right? So you're going to be paying interest, this 2 divided by 12, you're going to be paying interest on a number in the next period that is slightly less than 1 million. So that means that the part of A that goes into the interest payment, well, that one is going to get lower, and the part of A that goes into a notional reduction in the next period is going to get higher, right? So the next period, you're probably going to get above 2,000. The A stays the same, but this part here gets to be bigger, and this one here gets to be lower. This here was interest. And this one here was notional. This was a little bit about. Very typical, and yeah. So these are some typical bonds that you will see: zero coupon bonds, annuities. I had one more thing that I wanted to mention, and it's something that the book doesn't do much about, but I still think that you should see it. When you do bond math, there's something called DVO1. So I wanted to show you a little bit about what that is. Not much, but just a little bit. And if you look up Hall's textbook and you look up DVO1, it's we try to look it up in the index and see what we find over here. So DVO1, so it's here, DVO1. There's also something called DVA, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about DVO1. So this is 822. All right, so let's go to 822 and see what he writes. DVO1, this is down here. He says DVO1 is the dollar value of a basis point increase in all interests. Okay. Alrighty, so there's something with a basis point here. Like a basis point is 1/100%. So this is a small, teeny tiny change. And then in all interest rates. Okay, so let me see if I can get this to work in an example. Okay, in the example I have in mind, again, I want to go back to MATLAB and make it work there for you. So DVO1, what is it in a specific example? Let me share the screen. Let's try to do MATLAB. So I have a little file here. That was the wrong file I shared. Let me try to do this again. Right, so now you can see the editor here. I have a function. So this is Lec1A bonds. I have a function, and I have my cash flow. So I have payments. Let me write them on the paper too here. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 5 payments. I have 5 payments. I have a big one at the end. This is 1,100. And then I have 4 smaller ones that come first, and the 100 each. Okay. Okay, so I have, let me switch over to the picture here. This is my bond. So this is another example, but this is an example related to this DVO1, which I haven't talked about yet, but I'm still curious about. So, so here's a DVO1 calculation for a bond that has 5 payments, right? So this is my A1, A2, A3, A4, and A5. So say that this is a risk-free bond. So say this is risk-free. So in the US, what that means is this is issued by the Treasury. Some people also call it for a T-bill. The idea is that the Treasury in the US cannot default. But of course, I mean, if you're following politics these days, you will know that there's a big thing going on right now about raising the debt ceiling in the US. And the debt ceiling, this is controlled by Congress. This is not something that the president can raise by himself. It has come close before. There have been lockdowns of the federal government in the US before because they couldn't agree on increasing the debt ceiling. And there's another big debate that's about probably already in full force about raising the US debt ceiling. The US has quite a bit of debt, and it has been growing rapidly. I forget what it's in now. It's in the 20s in terms of trillions of dollars, and right, so those are huge sums. And so when we talk about risk-free bonds, that means that we're not afraid that these payments here, they might actually not come. And so we're thinking about those as being T-bills, because we are thinking about the Treasury as not going default. Okay, so we could say that these are risk-free, and if we're given that the initial value, so the time t value, say now here that the time t value is make it easy, say it's 1,000. One could ask, what is the interest? Well, the way you would do that is you would go about saying you could solve for the interest rate, and here we're taking it to be constant. We're taking it to be constant over the entire period from 0 to 5. And so how would you compute it? Well, if this is risk-free, what I will do is I'll take the 100 and I'll divide it by the interest rate, and then I would add them up. This one here comes at a later time, so I would penalize it harder. This one here comes at an even later time, so I would penalize it even harder by the power 3. These powers here, these powers we have here, they come from 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And then finally we get the 1100 up there, and then you divide by 1 plus r to the power 5. So I'm moving the payments. I'm moving this payment over here by saying that this is 100 divided by 1 plus r. This one here, I'm moving it over there. This is 100 divided by 1 plus r to the power 2, and so on. And this one big one over here is coming far into the future. This is 100 divided by 1 plus r to the power 5. Right, we're adding them all up. This is 100 divided by 1 plus r to the power 4. This is 100 divided by 1 plus r to the power 4. Power 3, sorry. Power 3. Right, so we have an equation here. This is equal to 1,000. This number here, so it goes there. Okay, so solve for r. And this is not a particularly pleasant. This is an equation that goes. It has r to the power 5 in here. It's not a particularly pleasant equation, but if you know how to use MATLAB, it's not that bad. And so let me share a little piece of code that will show you how to do that. All right, so let me do it here. But this is my cash flow. I'm going to solve. I'm going to use a built-in command, just like paper, but now it's called fsolve. So this is, we're going to use this command that's called fsolve. So we're going to use MATLAB's fsolve. And so what we're asking for is, what we're doing is we take these cash flows up in this matrix. This is my cash flow matrix. And I want the thing to be equal to 1,000. I want the thing to be equal to 1,000. Okay. And then I'm going to be solving. I'm going to try to make, I take each of these cash flows, and you can see when I gets to be, I then goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you can see as I get out, I discount by a harder and harder value. And I want to find the value of R. I want to find the value of R that has the property that this function here returns a 0, right? Because I want all this stuff up here, when I move it a bit back with this 1 plus R to these various powers, I'm going to get exactly 1,000. So I just move the 1,000 to the other side, and I'm searching for such an R. And to use this fsolve command, you need to feed in a guess. Right, so here I'm feeding in, this is 1%. I could start by guessing that it's 1% that will do it, right? So R is equal to 0.01. Okay, so let me try to do that, see what happens. So I need to go back and share the other file. So this is MATLAB. So if I go back and run the code, it's called Lec1A bonds, you can see that it ran Lec1A bonds, equation solved, solution is 10%. So we're solving, we were successful in solving, and we got 10% is the answer. So we solved for R equal to 10%, or R is equal to 0.1. Okay, so if out here, right, I want to get 1,000. So if the interest rate is 10%, all these payments here, and the risk-free, this is the risk-free interest rate. So I'm moving them all back here, I'm getting 1,000. It works. If R is equal to 0.1, I plug it into this equation here, I add them all up, I'm going to get exactly 1,000 on the left-hand side. Okay, so what is DV01 about? So remember what it was that Holhe said. What was it Holhe said? Well, he said you need to change R by 1 basis point. Okay, so let's try to change R by 1 basis point. So let's change R by 1 basis point. Right, so you remove R from being 0.12. So replace R equal to it. So replace R equal to 0.1 with R equals 0.101. Right, so it's an itty bitty teeny tiny change. Right? This is 1 basis point. 1 basis point. Also called BPS. And then what happens? How does it change? How does the 1,000 change? Well, how does it change? Well, if R goes up, what we have over here on the right-hand side, we're going to be dividing by more. So this is going to go down. Okay. So we are dividing by more. we're dividing by more. Right, so the right-hand side, we call that object here for star. So we're dividing by more. So star is now less than 1,000. And it is how much less that is the DV01. How much? Indeed, star is, so how do we figure out what star is? Okay, so we go back to MATLAB and try to get this to work. Let me show you, I need to share again, share screen. We need to do okay, so I don't want to solve this one here anymore. I just want to figure out what happens with the present value when R is going up a little bit. R is going to go from 0.1 to 0.101. And let me just start this one out here at, when you put this this percentage sign is even put in here, it means to ignore the line. Right, so now I'm just asking, calculate the present value, right? Move all these payments. I'm getting a time 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Move them out to time 0, t equal to 0, but by using the interest rate. Did I get this one right? Yeah, I got this one. 1.001. 0.101. I have a feeling this is not right. Like this is 1%. No, we need another 0 in there. We need another 0 in there. This is 10%, so 1%, so I need 2 more. Yeah, this is good. So let's try to run it. And here's what I'm getting. It went down. It went down by from 1,000 to 999.62. Am I missing up? Maybe I'm missing up. Is it just this one? Let me just double check my calculation. I think I am missing up my interest rate. It's this basis point that I'm messing up. Let me just make sure I get it right. So I want to go from, right, so this one here was 10%. I need to go up to, how much do I need to go up to? I need to go up to 10.01%. So this is 0.00. There should be a 0 in there. There you go. I got it right the first time. I messed up subsequently. This is how we would calculate DV01. If the interest rate goes from 10% and it goes up by 1 basis point, so we should have 2 zeros in here. This is what I was messing up. If I do that, I would get, I would get what we have here. 99 point. Which one is it? You can see, you cannot see the right one. You can see, switch it over. There you go. So indeed star comes out to be 999.6, if I remember correctly. And it's this difference, so DV01. So DV01 is the difference. This is 1,000 minus 900. and 99.6, so this is 0.4. In other words, what happens if the interest rate moves by 1 basis point? How does it affect the value of in this case, the bond? Okay. This was a little bit about bonds. It was a little bit different examples. What I want to do in the remaining few minutes, and then I'll stop the first half here, is to start talking a little bit about forwards, and then we'll talk about futures. So these derivatives that we're coming into now, just some motivation, perhaps what will, time is running away. So, so derivatives right? So so what kind of, we haven't talked about what a derivative is yet, but maybe what one would have, one could start talking about derivatives in terms of who uses derivatives, right? So the users have traditionally been divided into what's called hedges, and they have so hedges have exposure and want to eliminate a risk. And then you have speculators. Do you want to gamble? And place bets. And place risky bets. But we're not in the fixed income world anymore. Now there's a randomness. But before these payments that we saw coming, these were not random, they were always the same. So we have two kinds. Typically, the users of derivatives are categorized like that. So in order to get some feeling for what a derivative is, maybe we could start by looking at, say, company A trades with a country, say England. Right, so in England, so we are in company A. This is a US company. This has the dollar. And England, this is the pound. This is the pound. So a company A trades with England, some company in England. So with a company in England. And so a year from today, A receives 1 million pounds. So let's imagine we have a company who is trading with England, and you know that a year from now, they're going to receive 1 million pounds. It doesn't have to be a year, it could be a week. That's not so relevant. This year is my T. And the company naturally worries about the exchange rate. right? If you know you're going to get paid a year from now in a foreign currency, you're worrying about how the relationship between that foreign currency and your own currency, how it would look like. For those of you that are moving to the US, you will be worrying about how the US dollar relates to your home country's currency. I moved from Europe years ago, and this was definitely something I worried about. I still had expenses where I came from, and I was now being paid in dollars. I worried about that. So we worried about how the exchange rate evolves, right? It could go in our favor, but it could go against us as well. So what this company here might want to do is to strike a deal and seeks a deal. So what is the deal? Well, A gets K dollars. A gets K dollars at time 1. This is in 1 year. And A delivers 1 million. 1 million of the pounds at that time. He seeks such a deal. He says, I'm going to get K dollars instead of that 1 million. He gives up the million and he gets K instead. Right, this is called a forward. This is the basic structure of a forward. He gets K and he delivers the pounds. But this is not without problem. So there are some concerns. Right? What happens if the value of pound goes up during this interval where we're trading? Right? If the value goes up, then that 1 million pounds is going to become more valuable. But he's given it up now. Right? So A loses. And he might renege on the deal. And this is, of course, a terrible idea to try to do. You're going to get into real problems if you do that. Right? He knows he's going to get $1 million. So had he not entered the deal, he would have been much better off when the value goes up. Of course, the opposite is true when the value goes down. Another concern with this deal here is that what happens if A, for some reason or another, doesn't get the 1 million pounds? Right? It was stated that he's going to get $1 million from today. But say something happens. Like he expects to get this 1 million pounds. He enters this deal here where he promises to deliver 1 million of these pounds. Now something happens in this period that means that he won't get them after all. He's still on the hook. He's still on the hook and must deliver. This is also a problem, right? This here is counterparty risk. Counterparty risk. He thought that he would get that $1 million from whatever company that he has struck a deal with in England. However, the new company that he entered the forward with, typically a hedge fund or an investment bank of sorts, they want that £1 million irrespectively, regardless of whether or not that company actually gets the money from England. But if he doesn't get the pounds, he doesn't have them. And, then he has to find them somewhere else. So here, he loses, and he must renege on the deal. Reneging on these deals, this is not going to happen. This typically here, this is not a good idea. Reneging on a deal, this means default. So this is not really, it just means that A is going to lose. So this is not an option. A loses. So we could ask for some improvement. So there are concerns related to these forward contracts. Here are two of them. One could try to have improvements. Improved contracts could be improved contract. Could include what's called futures. I can see we're out of time here. It's an hour and a half in, so we will do this. We'll do this next time. Right. So for now, I want you to know a derivative. A main example of a derivative is such a forward like what we have here, where you have a company that has exposure. You could have this in many different cases, right? So here we're talking about a company that trades with another company in a foreign country. So he's worried about the exchange rate. It could also be that you are a farmer, you produce soybeans, right? So you're out in the Dakotas, North and South Dakota, those states. You have a large agricultural program, a large component of that of the farmers in those two states. They produce soybeans, right? And what you're worried about is, of course, what the price of soybeans will be like in the future, given that this is what they produce. You could also have beef, like cattle. Many states out west, Montana is a big cattle producing state. They worry about the price of beef. How could you try to eliminate the risk associated with beef prices? Well, if you produce a lot of beef, you know how much beef you're gonna, you have a good idea about how much beef you're gonna be having when it comes time to sell it. And so you could try to enter a deal that would lock in the beef price for cattle. Lots of situations like this happen. Producers of various goods, they have this risk inherently in their business, and one way to get rid of it is to reach out to the finance world. As I said before, hedge funds is a big player here, but there are also more traditional investment banking. They will be entering into these. They'll be happy to enter these contracts like a standard forward and try to eliminate, help eliminate the risk for say a cattle rancher out in Montana. So by no means do I mean to say that this is restricted to just having to do with currency. This is not the case at all. You can strike these forward deals on all kind of things. You can strike stuff here that is much more sophisticated. you have probably all heard about the financial crisis in 07 and 08. I mean, there were not just hedges there. There were definitely speculators at play too. And this is when you start gambling. You can also gamble on these things. So you can start gambling on prices going up or down on, say, electricity. Like Enron, there was a big scandal about Enron related to electricity. There were scandals about speculating on countries going into default. So when you start doing that, you're not necessarily hedging, you're more interested in placing a gamble. And so even though what we presented here has been thinking about hedges, but there are speculators are equally, if not more important in this market too. So we're not going to be taking the perspective of a hedger or taking the perspective of a speculator. We're just going to say we have somebody who wishes to trade a forward, and how do we figure out what is this price K here? Right? What are you willing to trade? So you're sitting here today, a year from now, how are you willing? How much K are you willing to receive to give up that £1 million? That's the basic question. How do we figure out what K is? Just as in all the other examples that we have, we're interested in figuring out what the value of this thing is. Okay, I think this is a good time to stop. This was not quite half of what I had in mind, but it's good enough. I'll end the lecture here, and then I'll do the other half of the lecture at some point tomorrow, and then hopefully we'll all be back together in the classroom, in the Zoom classroom on Tuesday. I think this is all for me. I will see you in a bit.